Hi, Bree here. I don't normally wear eye patch, but there's some weird stuff going on with my eye, like a weird swelling. I scratched it and it's swelling, and they have to dilate it really, really, really strong, more than when you just get in the eye doctor, and so it's super sensitive to light. So I have had this for 2 weeks now, and it's very difficult to read my computer, but I'm doing it, so here I am. So I'm responding to our video that we were required to do. Our high expectations as far as behaviors with students. I feel like we need to identify both strengths and weaknesses of students through assessments. Those are both like annual assessments and individual assessments. I think it's really important to recognize that each year, each class is very different. I work at a middle school right now, a very vulnerable population, and every year I've worked there, it's been a whole new set of strengths and weaknesses that we've needed to pull from. I feel like being able to monitor what's going on throughout the year and being able to change quickly if you need to adapt your practices and your models in which you are teaching. It's super important, and as well as knowing the students and their abilities and their interests. I think that's also super important, because for such a vulnerable age in middle school where I work, if we pull out what they can do, then they will in turn be successful. Okay, so the next thing that I was reading about was diversity. So the school that I work at, I am the diverse population. It's predominantly Hispanic and Hawaiian culture. And so when I started working there, I was a little bit mind blown. I just didn't know what to expect. And I have learned a great deal about diversity and what each culture feels is acceptable, and kind of how they do their life and what they do as a family unit. And I think that's really a positive thing for my career, and I really appreciate celebrating their diversity. My school has a Islander club after school, and although I'm not Islander, I've attended several times, and the kids have cooked for me and taught me a bunch of things, and I feel like just being excited about what they know that I don't, even as an adult. I feel like that's really powerful for them, because they are teaching me. And so I really appreciate that. Embracing diversity in all things, all different cultures. We don't know what we don't understand is kind of my basis. And obviously, as you know, from my culture, I'm not going to fully 100% understand every single diverse culture and their family unit, but accepting people for who they are, and where they have been and what they come from as a family unit and what they do without judgment is my goal. And I am very honored to have that mindset, just accepting of everyone and wanting to learn from all cultures. I think is really, really important. Also, as a counselor, having worked in a middle school, not tolerating inappropriate behavior towards other cultures is something that we have to put a stop to. I think that, especially in this day and age, we we have to work and interact with so many different cultures. So I think setting an example for acceptance of all people is super important. So this next topic is actually my favorite because I currently, in the work that I do at the middle school, do this all the time. And so I feel very connected to it. Fairness is demonstrated by the following behaviors. And so obviously building a positive relationship with students, and engaging students in conversation beyond just school. So my students have told me some things that they have going on at home that are more than I ever expected from any student of their age to ever tell me. I mean, it was mind-blowing. And so they have a lot going on. And so I want to be a person that is open and that they feel like they can come to, and having those conversations with them and asking questions to make them think like a little bit differently, like outside the box, and make them think about their beliefs, not question their beliefs, but think about why they believe those things, and kind of create a personal belief in their own self rather than just because that's what they were told to do. I think taking time for student concerns is super important, and that just all comes back to listening. Just shutting up and listening. I think a lot of times students just want someone to hear them. Problem solving is a really big thing that we deal with in middle school because they're middle schoolers. We have very different issues with boys and girls, and problem solving is extremely helpful because a lot of times things can be resolved with just a few simple questions and communication, and kind of guiding the students through that process in turn helps them to do that in their own life, in their own personal life, in their own families, and their own friends. And so I think that's super important. The next topic is professional conduct. I think it's very important to talk about and very important to express. It's a good thing to remember, because when you're working with adolescent youth, it's happened in the past where they'll start to open up about things where the line is like very thin, where you have to know your profession, where you are, right? And so if a student tries to tell you something, it is very important to tell them, if you think that the conversation is going to go somewhere where you have to report it, you have to let them know before they tell you, because you want to keep their trust, right? As a counselor, it's super important to have collaboration with families and maybe outside counselors and administrators and stakeholders and other people. And timeliness is super important. Attire is super important. I've had to learn that because we don't have a dress code, and I've been an IA. And so now I kind of have to dress for the job that I want. Just being a professional and being like with your colleagues in those settings can really help the way that you present yourself, and people will listen by the way that you're dressed and the way that you present yourself. Okay, so this is another one of my absolute favorites, and this is something that I know that I am good at, is reflection. I always seek the help of other people, and I want to continue that, especially in this new position. As a counselor, I already know who I'm going to do my internship with, and she I've seen her work with students and work with administrators, and she fascinates me, and I'm just in awe of her, and I want to work in front of her and then seek her feedback. And then in turn get her feedback, and then be able to process that and in turn be more effective as a counselor. So, and then also just observing her. We have 3 counselors at our school, and I've been able to observe them in my own position, but in my internships, I really want to be able to observe and see what they do on a daily, like on their full-time work that they do, because they are very, very impactful, and they really speak to my heart, and they truly make a difference in so many students' lives. They get all emotional. They're really good people. And so I am very honored to work under them and seek their ways in which they have learned, not just from school, but our school is very special and very vulnerable, and so we've had to learn a lot just from being in our community to survive and to let the students survive. And so I'm really excited to work under them, and also just taking time every day during school and during my practicums where I can reflect and, okay, this is what I could have done better, and this is what, I'm strong in. I think taking that space, even just 5 minutes, is super, super important. So curiosity is what I feel like as a middle school counselor is almost, to me personally, the most important aspect to have, because it's just asking questions to allow students the space to think outside of their box. And sometimes all students need is to be asked the right question. A lot of times at that young age, they just know what they know and know what they've been told and what their parents say or what their friends say. But just being given the space to open up their mind to something bigger is so important and so just vital to their growth as humans and as students. And so I think that curiosity is super important for me and for them and their growth. And that kind of correlates with compassion. I think of the word as compassion as the word empathy. And I have been through some situations and done my own thing and done my own therapy, which obviously you don't bring up, but because I've been through those things, I know deep down those struggles and those hurt emotions and those walls and those barriers that are built up that can just paralyze. And I have been asked the questions to break them down. And so I know what to ask, and I know I'm going to learn more what to ask. But just listening and being a soundboard that is outside of their personal life, I know is going to be so powerful. And empathy is, in my personal opinion, an energy. People can tell, people can feel it. And so I am really, really strong in my ability to feel empathy and to connect with students, because there's a lot of things that I know that they're going through, and they don't have anyone to just soundboard off or ask the right questions. And so I'm really excited about my ability to be able to provide that for students.